Officially 5:30, all rise for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, everybody. We'll do some roll call here to determine the quorum. Councilor Baumgartner. Here. Evers. Here. Ferguson.
Here.
I am here. Howard.
Here.
We do have a quorum. We'll call the meeting to order. First part of the meeting here will be the public forum. We'll suspend the regular meeting here and open the public forum. This is a time where we invite members of the community to come forward and address council. We get 3 minutes to speak. But you know, if there are any unfinished business at the end of that, we'll direct staff to continue working on it towards resolution. So if you are here to address council, now is your time.
Yes, okay.
Oh, and then please state your name for the record.
Oh,
And you can come and sit up.
okay, Lonnie Davis. Okay, what I'm here about is, in May, when my brother passed away, we have a piece of property down on the north end of town here. Well, we're looking to sell this piece of property. The person buying the house does not want the shop that goes with it. If the line is drawn, it shrinks a lot under 12,000 feet. But in order to get to this shop, anybody would like to see pictures? We have aerial pictures of this. I gotta do this fast, but anyhow, so.
You're okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then here, I'll give you exact measurements too. So, if you want to look at that back end of that building there. Okay, what we're looking at is the Allen Davis.
Yep.
Okay, now. The thing of it is the easement for that shop comes between my sister and my mother's house. My sister doesn't want that easement. We grant that, it's there forever. Whatever we do with my mother's house, that easement's there forever.
That's where the number 7 is there, right? Your mother's house, just to clarify for these guys.
The,
Right here, upside down 7, right?
and you know, we were speaking to the
That's the
people.
mother's house.
I have a different.
Yeah, a
seven.
different map.
Oh, gotcha.
You're zoomed in.
All right.
So this is mom's house. It's the ID 6510.
6510, yeah.
6510, is that mom?
Yes,
And then sister is
right there. yes.
6505.
Yes.
And
It says
And then
that,
the
I'll
shop
say,
is,
here's the shop, and
okay,
this is Marsha Brandt.
okay. Oh, I see where you are. Okay.
So. The person not wanting the shop with it. We do not like the idea of a variance through that easement through that land. My sister ever sells her house, it messes it up. My mother's house, we ever sell that property, lots, it messes it up so bad. As it's all, everything there, other than my brother's house, is owned by us Davises.
Yeah.
And what it is, them little markers in the corner, this has all been surveyed, all been plotted. We're asking to have somebody look at this and say, yes, this might work. And then we'll have it surveyed again, but we don't wanna survey all this and say, no, we don't like that idea.
You wanna spend the money on surveying it with there being a risk that it won't.
Yeah, without the risk of it not going through.
What's the property ID of your brother's house?
This is the one here, so they want to,
It's also.
they wanna
Oh,
redraw,
it's on the screen.
the line to exclude this shop here.
Mhm.
Put this shop in with the mother's house.
Yes, onto the Davis
So they wanna
property.
move, the problem is that this does not fall under our minimum square footage for a lot.
Okay.
Okay,
If they were
From
to
the-
parcel that off, it would be too small for our one.
From the north corner of my brother's lot to the edge of that garage is 112 feet. If this, say, see, that's, we don't know how many, they think like 10 feet. That would be 102 feet, 100 by 102 is 10,200 square feet. Or it can be
What's the minimum, 12,000?
12,000 now.
Yeah, so it must draw a line, which is roughly. And so you want that shop to be a part of which property?
The Davis property.
6510.
6510, so that bigger person.
What about this garden plot here?
That's all Davis property also.
And then what is the square footage of this house property that you're trying to sell if you draw a line there?
Well, that's where the line, that's the question, where do we want to draw the line? It's 112 feet from the front of the house, or from the property line in front to the edge of that shop. So, say there's a 5-foot variance on that shop, that would be 7 feet, so it'd be 10,700 feet.
Square feet?
Now, these figures are within, this is all measured from 40-year-old buildings. This is all measured from the surveyor's stakes. But we know that, yes, the tentative, yes, this will work, then we'll have it all surveyed. Otherwise, we don't know what to tell the person that wants to buy the house.
Right.
What footage he would actually have.
How wide is the lot
Uh,
from the field to Marcia's house?
Marsh's is 100.
I'm just trying to get a square feet. that lot would be.
Marsh's is like 100 by 120. That'd be the total, 12,000.
Do we know what this width is?
This is what a legal survey would be for, is to understand what those property lines would be.
Do you know what roughly is?
I-
75 feet? Nobody knows?
What-
We'd have to look into,
we have a hand, we have a hand.
so how wide is the lot?
100.
100 feet, okay, so,
This was discussed with the family already.
okay,
It's 100 up, yeah, 100 up front, and then at present, like 160 feet deep, including the shed.
but, okay, so the 112 to the edge of this shop, and then you said you're gonna subtract 5 from that, right? This is
Well,
a
what the
variance
city will allow.
Times 100, so we're,
Because that goes with this house?
It's still gonna have to be surveyed, correct?
Well,
Yes,
so,
that where we're at?
Yeah.
Yes.
Mr. Mayor, Council, may I just set some stage?
Sure.
Yes.
If, I don't know if this is the appropriate time for me to do that. Are you okay with that?
Yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
I know that staff has been having conversations with the Davis family. And I think everybody has indicated that everybody wants to work together. The issue is just the city code and what's required. And so, and a variance requires a hearing, that it has to meet the practical difficulties test as far as, are there practical difficulties which the courts see as set the standard? That's the thing that's sued about the most. Remember, when you make when you're making a decision on variance, you're saying, no, our code doesn't have to apply to this. So maybe that's great for this situation and something that you can think of, certainly within your, on the recommendation of the planning commission, within your jurisdiction to do that. But when you make those types of decisions, then you have to think about how that impacts everybody else who doesn't want the code to apply in that certain situation, and how are they going to be different than this parcel. So really the test by the courts is, what is practically difficult about this what's unique about this property that makes it difficult for them to use it the way they do? So that's the standard that I would be telling you, from the perspective of when it finally got to you after it was in the planning commission. So for you to say now, I mean, I understand the desire to like, hey, just give us a heads up just so that we don't spend this money, but for you to decide that now, it's really, if there was a court reviewing it, you've already made your decision, which would be arbitrary and capricious of the whole process.
Oh, but we
So-
can't even make a decision.
Right,
tonight
that's
about
what I
it.
mean,
We're
so
just-
the question of if you can give me a hint or a clue of whether this would, this would work out, that's really hard for you to do.
Oh, so
can't
you
do that.
haven't brought it to the planning commission yet?
No, so I think the request, as I understand it, is, hey, council, can you tell us if this is gonna be a go before we spend money to do the survey? I think is what the question is that right?
The question basically is, yes, that's basically the question is. How do we go about this? Is there any chance that we can have this variance? Because
And I think
otherwise,
legally, we can't answer that.
no, legally you can't. But that's why we're asking now is this to be looked into. Because we're hanging with this house.
Mhm.
And we're bleeding here, the insurance, heating it, taxes, sewer, water, electricity. And we have a buyer that wants this house, but does not want the adjoining property, or does not want
The shed.
that shop.
So if the buyer had
And-
wanted the shop, wouldn't have done even an issue.
Well, then this is our other issue here too, is granting that easement between these two properties. Then we sit there forever, not knowing what can happen back there.
And there's no way for them to make an entrance along the side of the house to the shop?
Well,
Maybe move.
now if you look at this, between my sister's house and my brother's house, the city has its power lines and stuff there, but now you would have a driveway. How close to her boundary and 2 feet away from their house, I mean. You figure an alley easement through there, you'd be awfully tight.
Right, and I think
And she would still have somebody driving in and out 10 feet from her.
and I think right now you probably have to look at that as one of your possibilities, because that might end up being your answer. So right now, you need to look at the big spectrum and see what other options there would be to do if the code is telling you. I'm not giving you an answer by no means. I'm just saying if our code says this is what has to be done and you don't have permission from the planning commission or haven't gone to them yet. I genuinely would look for a buyer that's willing to do that and then talk to your sister and your mom, and if they don't want an easement on their
mother's house.
house, probably talk about making another driveway, because
My-
otherwise they are gonna get an easement.
My mother's passed away.
Oh, I'm sorry.
This is basically a. What do you call them? It's unlivable.
Mhm.
There's no sewer, no water, no electricity, no sewer to that house. That's a blighted property is what it's gonna be soon. We are looking at leveling it. And that would put that lot available if anybody ever wanted to build it. It's a nice lot.
Yeah, it is.
So there,
But
yeah,
your son-
the other issue too that I think that's come up, from what I've been learning from staff is that, you lost your brother too, is that
Yeah,
correct?
my-
Yeah, I'm
my
sorry
brother's-
for your loss, but there's apparently an issue with the title because it's still in his name, is that right?
No, that's all legally done.
Oh, that's all taken care
That's all,
of?
yes, that's all.
So you
Because
have all the
that
probate
was different than what I
Yes,
had
that's,
heard
that
about.
just come from the attorney a couple
Okay.
weeks ago.
Oh, okay.
That takes a little time too.
Yeah, I'm sure it does. So there
And-
was also a concern about that the recorder wouldn't even record anything because the title was, the title was in somebody's name who was no longer with us, so there was also the title concern. So, you know, from the city code perspective, it would be to do the application for, the minor subdivision. And then if it required a variance based on it, you know, with that, what the survey said, then to do the variance application. And so, but staff's gonna be able to help you with that when, through that, the minor subdivision is administrative up until the point of if it needs a variance or not.
And we've provided that process to your family.
So, and the other thing is, you know, you don't necessarily have to have an easement, you could also do an agreement for a, you know, a license to encroach. Or there are some other access tools that you could explore as well.
I mean, I'm sure that throughout this city, there's more than one easement, or I mean, more than one, no, I got my easements and my,
I understand what you're saying, Marty.
there's more than one been granted.
These, and if they have been granted, they've gone through like a particular process, and that's gonna be the only way. And I can't tell you that it's gonna work out for you guys or not, but we gotta follow the process if we do decide to try and make any adjustments on property lines or anything. We gotta go through the planning commission and the planning and zoning director. We are not, we're just not gonna make that decision at the council level without going through this thing. And I know that it feels like it's inefficient and it feels like it's a big pain in the butt, and perhaps it is. But we have to, especially when it comes to property lines, we have to follow the standards set forth by these processes.
Oh, I mean, we totally understand that. But our thing is, where we're going with this is, do all this for what? I mean, is there,
For your answer,
yeah,
that's honestly, it's the only way you're gonna get the answer, cause we can't give it to you.
If it doesn't get fulfilled, Lonnie, then you know you gotta adjust and and figure out a different strategy. I
And if
guess.
you're taking your mom's house down, maybe sell them both together, and then they can deal with it. I mean, it's not your
No.
problem, you know?
you must understand that people do have limited resources
Well,
also.
yes, yeah.
You're looking at how much.
And that's, I mean, and that's the same situation we're in a limited answer here. The only
Oh,
answer we can give you
understand
is,
that, but we're
you know, planning commission is.
just, is there any way of going to the planning commission and have them look at it?
Yep.
Before,
Whatever their
The
requirements are.
requirement is for a
is what-
legal survey.
Yeah,
In order for the planning commission to hear this, part of the minor subdivision process requires a legal survey. And then if there is a variance required, we still need that legal survey and
Yes.
all legal signatures for every parcel involved.
yes,
There's a good chance,
No.
Lonnie, no matter what you decide to do with these lots, that a legal survey is gonna be something that's
a legal.
gonna be important.
Yes, a legal survey of what?
These 4 properties, I suppose.
The property is all surveyed, we know exactly where everything is.
is there,
We need,
But the survey isn't showing the new parcel that you wanna create. That's what the legal
Yeah,
survey
that's
is
the
for,
new-
so where the property line would be for the subdivision, so.
yeah, and where do we draw that line? What can we do with that, how far from that?
You're asking
Those
about
are-
from the.
that's,
shed.
those
This
are
is-
all questions for the, I mean, we have. People that can answer that with, we don't answer those, but we don't
I
have those
understand that.
answers for you.
That's where we're going.
That all goes through the city office and then the planning commission is, that's where you can get your
Yeah.
answers, honestly.
Well, yeah, thank you for your time, we were just trying to figure out.
Yeah, I wish I could tell you
Before-
to go for it or not go for it, Lonnie.
Everybody says survey, it's all been surveyed. Every pole is there, we can measure everything,
You're right.
but it will be surveyed. To what? Our
Well, so,
question is. to
I think
what-
if you have an existing surveyor, then just have that updated to work with Marissa where the line can be for the subdivision.
Yeah,
And then that would probably reduce your cost with the surveyor too, because they're gonna easily be able to locate those other pins that the survey had done if you have a previous survey. And then they can just measure out.
Yeah.
And then provide staff with a new survey of what these two new lots would be. And so that they can know the distance.
who can tell us
Where's
how
the-
far from that shed? How far
Our
from the.
planning and zoning administrator. And we can continue the discussions
Yeah.
with you after this meeting. If you wanna leave I think we have your phone number, we have email addresses of
Yeah,
several people.
it's everything else.
Yeah.
Thank you for your time and that, but
Thank you, Lonnie.
it's just that we're looking at what we have to survey. No one says here, well,
Well, it's just that line, right, from just north of
And then
that
it would
garage.
be what he wants to add it to,
yeah, just,
So you just need to figure out how many feet off the garage you gotta be, then the line straight across.
oh yeah, I mean,
And
it's
then-
just, it's really.
The current parcel and the future parcels you wish to have listed in the city of Olivia, that is your answer. So what your current parcels are,
Mhm.
and then how you would like your future parcels divided, those are the two surveys that you need.
Yeah.
That's
The,
the simplest answer.
The simplest thing is, yes, that everything is all plotted, everything is there, all lots are there, everything is there. Our question is, how far from that shed? And
Can you
if we do all this,
Is a good way out for you.
yeah, it's just that if what we do, we're glad to do it, but we have to know what to do.
Right,
And if there's any chance on earth of it being worth doing.
and the other thing to think about too is once you get the survey and that line, if there does need to, looks like there does need to be a variance, they could, the two parties who could work out an agreement to basically sell the amount of setback that you need back to the other parcel.
So there are some.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And you're currently both parties, so do it now.
Yeah, it's kind of, we're just trying to get this moving too. We've been sitting on this for quite some time, family trying to figure out what and how to do this.
Right,
But it's that easement through that driveway that really messes things up, or if that property can be sold without that easement. And it's so simple when you stand there and look at it.
thanks, Lonnie.
Thanks, Lonnie.
Thank you.
Anybody else wish to address council this time? Not seeing anybody else, we'll close down the public forum portion of the meeting and open the regular meeting back up. Next order of business is setting the agenda. We've all had a chance to look at the agenda. If anybody wants to pull a consent agenda item up for discussion or add anything, now's the time.
Make a motion to approve the agenda.
So, second.
Motion's been made by Ever, seconded by Ferguson to approve tonight's agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Agenda carries as written. First off, we'll start off with a proclamation. We don't do a whole lot of these, but when things around the community become so exciting, by golly, we need to set aside a special day. So just to inform everybody, if you haven't heard, we ask you to crawl out from under your rock and hear that the Bold Warriors have won the Section 2A championship. So this is the Bold Warriors. This is the first time in Bold Warrior history that we've been section champions. We are officially in the state tournament. So we are proclaiming Thursday as Bold Basketball Day. So everybody wear red and turn on the game at 11 o'clock. I think it's gonna be on channel 45. So Thursday, Bold Basketball Day.
100.1 on the radio,
Oh yeah, that's right, the local KLLV as well.
play by our own Joe Dollar Show.
Okay. Moving on to the consent agenda, we've had a chance to review the consent agenda. I'll call for a motion to approve it.
Someone,
So motion's been made by Ferguson, seconded by Evers to approve the consent agenda. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Consent agenda carries as written. Moving on down to discussion items. Item A, the electric vehicle charger termination agreement.
So in October of 2024, NLX, if I'm saying that correctly, who did the EV charger out at Memorial Park, abruptly announced it was shutting down its North American charging business. So this was a charger that the city had an agreement with MMPA, Minnesota Municipal Power Association, who supplies some of City of Olivia's power. This is one of their initiatives. MMPA's board discussed this and decided to terminate obviously their EV chargers that were in their member communities. So this is the termination agreement. It does come, once the city is signed, it does come with a $3,000 check. They'll send it to us to help defray the costs of uninstalling the charger and everything like that. So that's what this agreement is for. The city is okay with, well, the city staff at least is okay with this. We've been having some issues with that charger for a while. We weren't very happy with the customer service response we were getting when there were issues. So overall, city staff is okay that we don't have to deal with this particular headache anymore.
And that $3,000 comes no matter if we do something or not, we just get that.
What, if we sign this agreement,
If we sign the agreement, yeah.
yes, and then we would use that to take it up.
Is there any risk you can see that's hanging out there that we should?
No, not really. I don't think it's utilized all that often. It wasn't a fast charger, so
Did it
again,
ever
it
work?
was, that's the question, did it ever work? I don't know if you really look back historically, how many hours it was up versus how many it was down. So ideally, I don't see this as a bad thing. I appreciate that they are providing us the resources to deinstall it.
Call for a motion to approve the agreement to terminate the electrical vehicle charger out at Memorial Park.
Motion.
Second. Motion's been made by Howard, seconded by Evers to approve the termination agreement for the electrical vehicle charger out at Memorial Park. Any further discussion?
Yeah, I just wanna know, are we gonna discuss what we're gonna do with it after this?
I mean, I'll figure out what costs there are to take it out. I mean, it's definitely something that if we didn't want anymore, we could put it up on our public auction site. To see what that looks like. Honestly, I don't know if it's working right now.
Yeah, I
are
guess
you
what,
trying to say just leave it where it is?
well, you could put a barrel over it or something, but I'm so I'm looking for a least cost way to get it out, but then also potentially there's power there, so can we utilize that for another power spot for the RV?
Oh,
camping
sure.
area?
Yeah, I can inquire with the electrician.
Yeah.
About what power
So
might be.
I just wanna
helpful.
have a discussion about what we're gonna do with it later. if that's all right.
Yeah, absolutely.
That was what I wanted to say, John.
Very good. Any other discussion? Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Moving down to discussion item B. It's resolution 23. It's accepting an offer from the state of Minnesota Department of Military Affairs to purchase the Armory property and the West Shed building.
Yes, so this is the resolution. Thank you to our city attorney and her team for drafting and for working with this sale. The key turnover will be happening April 1st. So I did get an official confirmation of that. I did do a little bit of walking around when it was open for Just for Kicks. It does look like the state did remove the tables and chairs, so we will need to look at purchasing some of those for events in that space. We're continuing to talk with our insurance carrier along with utility costs to put together a sustainable business model. And we've actually been invited to submit a full project proposal to the Southwest Regional Sustainable Development Partnership team to help us with like a demographic survey of key communities that could be using that, as well as helping develop that business model. So we're looking forward to seeing that. That we're also, our project proposal includes having them help us put out a community survey to see what programming residents would like to see in the future. So we're doing a good job kind of laying the groundwork to turn this into a really usable community asset. And then along with this resolution, you'll see in there that the state does need to do a little bit more research and work to complete a certain lot split for the motor vehicle storage building. And so part of this resolution includes mentioning a lease agreement from the city to the state, so that we could get the keys to the motor vehicle storage building. The particular reason why the city's interested in the keys sooner rather than later is to start talking with contractors about what work we'd like to be doing in that building. They need to obviously come in, they need to see the space to look at quotes. We certainly don't wanna move anything in it or improve it until we have filed the deed, but to get the ball rolling before construction calendars fill up is why we're most interested in the facility lease agreement that I added to your packets this afternoon, so we can get the ball rolling on that end.
And just a point of clarification, we're the lessee.
Lessee, sorry.
Yeah.
There we go.
Just wanted to make sure that we're
Yes.
leasing from them until they figure out their property stuff.
Yeah.
So we're buying the one parcel that.
We're buying the
totals
downtown
down,
armory.
For the dollar.
and
for the dollar.
And then we're leasing the storage building for $1 until they figure out their title issue, so. And it's not, I mean,
So, owned by the-
if you read the lease, it's in there that it's contemplated, they're selling it to us. I didn't have any concerns when I read the lease.
So we're leasing it from them for $1. And then they're going to give us that $1 back to buy it from them for the $1? Or are we
we might buy
gonna,
it
or are we
for-
gonna have to come up with another $1?
We might have to.
We
pay
might have to
another
come up
bit,
another
we might have to
$1.
pay another $1.
I'm glad we didn't make that dollar.
See, that
Wait a minute,
price
that's
just tripled.
200%.
Yeah. No, it was just
That's
$1
to pull out
for
the
that.
percentage.
It's
We do that
$1,
one.
but now it's $3.
What about the Chrysler building? Cause part of the reason we're excited about this is everything going through there?
Yes.
Okay.
Are you glad to hear me say that?
Yes, I am.
Okay, so,
Yes.
really, we could have potentially brought most all of the documents in front of you tonight. I just got them this afternoon.
Okay,
So Friday afternoon, we had been going back and forth on the, lease that we would be leasing from, them. That lease back on this, on that space. And so we've got all of that worked out, as far as there was some requests of the city, if we could terminate it early, if we needed to, especially with this Armory property, so they agreed to that. There was some back and forth about some insurance, they initially wanted us to cover some insurance costs. And we, had never paid insurance property taxes or asked them to pay insurance, so we worked that out as far as we'll carry our own insurance. They'll cover the property taxes, so that's all been worked out. They did ask, and I think it's reasonable that if we go into year 2, if we have to go to a next year, then they are gonna expect some rent.
Okay.
And they set the rent at the rate that they're paying now. It would seem from what all I've heard, we probably aren't gonna go into a year 2 for that lease. But that is the one difference that you would see. So that lease is their final is in Elizabeth's hands. I just asked her to give it one more read through. The termination of the existing lease has been drafted and approved. And there was some conditional use permits that were granted that came up in the title search to Monsanto and then GK something.
Yeah.
GK hybrids or something?
Yeah, so for a research facility and for conditional use to use that as a research facility for both those conditional use permits. And so we're just cleaning up the title and you'll see a release come in front of you to release those, terminate those conditional use permits. They would probably automatically be terminated anyway because the project didn't happen, but just to get them off the property. And then there was also a variance that went along with that same conditional use permit for one of the corners. I think it was for setback on one of the corners. And again, the project didn't happen, the actual variance was granted with an expiration. If the project didn't happen, it expired, but we're still just gonna clean it up since the other ones are coming in front of you, so we did a termination for those. Those are all finished, you'll see those at your next meeting. So, and then it should everything else is drafted and should be ready to close.
No indication it's gonna blow up in our face.
Nope,
Okay.
I can't promise that. I can't
We
promise
did say no
that.
indication.
Why are you
No
speaking that into
indication.
the ether?
I know.
I don't
You
believe
want
in
it to
that stuff,
turn
I don't believe in
negative.
it.
I don't.
Yes.
All right, does everybody feel well informed in order to make a decision on item B?
Yes.
All right, I'll call for a motion to approve resolution 23.
So moved.
Motion's been made by Howie, seconded by
I'll second.
Ferguson to approve resolution 23. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. That's wonderful. All right,
Can you also move to approve the lease agreement?
I'll also call for a motion to approve the lease agreement with Chrysler.
Nope,
No,
sorry,
I'm
for
sorry,
the
with the
state.
state for access to the west shed.
Motion.
Second,
Motion's been made by Howard, seconded by Baumgartner. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Okay. All right, now we're gonna move down to committee reports here. Any reports from the council?
We had a pool committee meeting today. Everything got tabled. I feel like we accomplished a lot. And we'll be moving everything forward into the next meeting. But the pool is filled,
The water.
yes.
DDA meeting last week. We just kind of reviewed priorities and stuff for the year. Working on finalizing which one is the
Grow
Grant.
Olivia grant?
Grow Olivia grant. I talked a little bit about trying to move forward with development on the old hospital site and seeing what we can do as DDA to assist with development.
Any other committee reports?
You wanna talk about planning?
Yes, we met as a planning committee and went into a deep dive on our sign ordinances. And hopefully we'll be presenting that to council sometime this decade.
I was gonna say century, but decade is much more optimistic.
Yeah, so we went through it kind of line by line, and we are going to come out of this with very clean and clear sign ordinance moving forward. Thank you, staff, for enduring this process, and thank you to those on the planning committee for enduring this process, because it is dry content. All right.
I do have a report from staff, so I just wanna update everybody. I have been in discussions with Bold to figure out the traffic flow during construction. A lot of their major construction will kick off on May 19th. It will impact kind of the east entrance along with the north side. So we're working with Bold staff and their project site engineers to figure out the safest way forward to do drop off for that year on 9th Street between Birch and Pine. So we have good discussions, and all of those progresses are moving forward. City staff is working together with police, with fire, with public works, to make sure that any thing that we do doesn't impact emergency services or anything.
Well, thank you for partnering with those guys.
Yes.
Any other reports from staff? Okay. Under notices and communications, I just want to offer a message of congratulations to our deputy clerk Jasmine Miller for achieving her Minnesota Certified Municipal Clerks certification from the Municipal Clerks and Finance Officers Association of Minnesota. So congratulations.
Yeah, can you come over here?
Come in, give us a bow.
will you say a few words?
Thank you, Mrs.
What did
Miller.
you feel was the hardest part of achieving?
Can you state your name for the record?
She's a
Moving
motion, she
on.
can't talk. All right, thank you, Jasmine, for fulfilling that. It's, yeah, ongoing training is important for our staff and we really appreciate all the extra effort.
And then the other notice is just you'll be receiving in the mail, if you haven't seen it online already, a water survey. The city of Olivia needs at least 20 sample points here, right here. For the Minnesota Department of Health lead and copper sampling, so you can help us out by answering a couple questions to see if your residence is a good fit. So, thank you in advance, you can do it online or through the paper.
They were delivered today.
There we go, perfect.
Am I the first
I got
one?
mine today.
No,
I was delivered to Millville, probably.
but thank you.
She was gonna say, yeah. I won't lie.
Any other notices or communication? With no other business before us, I'll call for a motion to
So
adjourn.
Second.
Motion's been made by Ferguson and seconded by Evers to adjourn. Any further discussion?
Oh my God.
Hearing none, all in favor, say aye.
Bye.
All opposed, same sign. Thank you, everybody. We're adjourned.
My husband is making